Greetings and salutations. This is Akirishin. In this video, I will be featuring the Messerschmitt Me-262 HG-3 German heavy fighter jet. This aircraft is designed for high altitude interception activities. It has very high airspeed, as well as a powerful and long-lasting boost. And we'll talk more about that boost in a moment, because we do have an upgrade that really helps that. Stats-wise, the 262 HG-3 has an optimal altitude of 2,800 meters. Its optimal airspeed is 804 kilometers per hour. It does have good survivability, but the counter with that is that it has large dimensions and a vulnerable engine. And we'll talk in a moment about how you can try to address that engine concern. The 262 HG-3 comes with four 30mm cannons. These cannons have a large effective range, 700 meters. I would say a medium rate of fire, not bad at all, and good damage per second, 350. It does have the ability to equip pretty powerful bombs. However, I do not equip the bombs because it does decrease airspeed, and airspeed in this aircraft is critical in terms of survivability. Upgrades wise, I have equipped it with improved flaps 3, which increases by 20% efficiency of airspeed reduction with an idle engine. But more importantly, and really the reason why I equip it, is it does increase maneuverability in turns by 3%. And this aircraft is not a very good, it's not very good in terms of turning. So if you were to get in a turning battle, dogfight with a turn and burn aircraft, you are definitely going to lose that fight. I've also equipped it with improved aircraft polish 4, which increases maximum airspeed by 3%, and also on the dive it increases acceleration by 15%. So whenever you have an aircraft, of course you want to try to look at that aircraft's strengths and accentuate those to the greatest degree possible. I guess there are kind of two ways to look at it. You can either try to counteract the aircraft's weak points, or you can try to accentuate the aircraft's strong points. I tend to lean towards accentuating an aircraft's strong points with some but less focus on the aircraft's weaknesses. Now, there are several options of how you could go in the third slot. Various different, again, focusing on the aircraft's weaknesses, increasing its armor plating, reinforcing the airframe, increasing engine power. That increasing the engine power through engine tuning 4 is a very viable option. But what I have chosen to go with on this particular aircraft is the gyroscopic gun sight 2, which increases firing accuracy by 10%. And the reason I do that, I don't know if I would describe it as personal to myself or to this aircraft. It's hard to say which is which, but because a lot of times you are flying at high airspeeds, it can be a real challenge hitting enemy targets. And so, and I struggle with that, with these cannons, with the HG2, I equipped 20 millimeter cannons, and they had a higher rate of fire, and I was able to hit enemy targets with greater frequency. But that's not an option on this particular aircraft, on the HG3. So I need help getting rounds on the target. So that's why I went with the gyroscopic gun sight. You may not have a problem with that, so you know, that may not be as much of an issue for you, but for me it is. I will note on this aircraft one thing that I wish it had that it doesn't, that the HG2 had, were the rockets. And the reason I like the rockets so much, two reasons. Number one is that when aircraft fly directly at you, which happens frequently, you can just launch those rockets right in the enemy aircraft's face, and it is very effective. Secondly, when you're trying to take down bomber groups, which is one of, I think, the key roles for this aircraft, it helps to have those rockets to finish those bombers off faster. But unfortunately, the HG3 does not have the rockets. So it's a real negative to this aircraft. Ammunition wise, of course, I am going with the high explosive ammunition for the high crit chance. I have gone with the automatic fire extinguisher on this aircraft, even though catching fire is not particularly one of its weaknesses. And because this airplane's engines are vulnerable, I did go with the automatic engine restart. In many of my past videos, you've seen where I have gone with the first aid kit. I don't think that pilot injury is as frequent a problem on this aircraft as with others, so I did go with the engine restart. And probably the most important consumable for this aircraft is the engine cooling. This aircraft has a very long boost duration. I don't recall off the top of my head how long it is, but it's at least 12 seconds. And basically, you get down to, almost zero boost left, and you hit this, and it's basically refreshed. So you can turn that 12-second engine boost into basically a 24-second engine boost, and that is very important for this aircraft's performance and defense as well. So pilot skill wise, I have chosen to focus on this aircraft's weaknesses more, and that being its maneuverability. Again, it's not a very maneuverable plane, and so I have gone with aerobatics expert as well as aerodynamics expert. In addition, I have chosen Marksman 1, again trying to decrease the dispersion of the forward-firing cannons to make it more likely that I'm going to get cannon rounds on my targets, because that is just something I struggle with in this aircraft. This particular paint scheme for the aircraft is the summer paint scheme. This is a very terrific looking aircraft. I mean, just the lines of this aircraft, it is so sleek looking. It's just a beautiful fighter. This is the winter pattern. Desert. I must say I'm not a huge fan of the stripes with this desert pattern, but I mean, it's not bad, but it's not my favorite. And then marine. These stripes I think are a little bit more attractive just because they're more angled. They're not just straight across the aircraft, you know, like a striped shirt. But that is the marine paint scheme. And of course, I have my lucky 13. Alright, so primarily this would be your classic zoom and boom aircraft. Speed is life. You want to keep that airspeed up. And when you're engaging high threat areas, you're basically zooming in, getting off as many rounds to as many targets as possible, zooming back out, and then rinse and repeat. It's a good climber, so many times if you are being chased, you can outclimb enemy aircraft depending on what you're dealing with. Okay, so let's get into a battle here and see how we do with it. Okay, so we have drawn the Alpine Gambit, and we have plant and airstrip assets, and these are the airstrips that you cannot heal your aircraft at. They do provide a spawn point, but you would not be able to heal up there. You can tell that just by looking at the icon, because it's got the smaller aircraft icon. If it was a heal sort of airstrip, you would have the larger bomber looking emblem in the icon. But we are going to go over to the
You are approaching the front line.
airstrip. Now, this is a zoom and boom aircraft, but initially when I fly into this first asset, because I am not expecting any player aircraft to any great degree, I'm going to go in at slower speeds so that I can be more effective in terms of hitting these air defense craft. Because honestly, if you go in here zooming and booming, by the time you take out any of these aircraft, the base will already be taken by your teammates. Once we've secured this asset, then we'll do some climbing. This is your ideal setup, is coming in from behind on aircraft. It is much more difficult to target aircraft when you're coming in from the side because you're just not on the target long enough. So we are going to go more to a zoom and boom approach here. Get some altitude here. We're going to flip around. We're going to focus on our lower held target. Now be very careful about dives like this because you don't want to come in too steep, because it is difficult to pull out of the dive with this aircraft. So you can find yourself crashing into the ground. Well, I would have really liked to have finished him off on that round. Alright, so we're going to flip around here and hopefully finish this target off. Go. So this aircraft is ideal for these larger targets. We will have to come back around to finish him off. Again, your best way to get turned around is to flip over vertically rather than to try to turn horizontally. We do not have a lot of health left. So again, we're going to flip over here. Oops. Try to flip over. And make another go at it. Using the sight, zoomed in sight, does tend to help a little bit. And we've got a fighter coming in on us here. Probably going to end up getting us. I would like to finish off this aircraft here before that fighter gets us if I can. Try to use these mountains a little bit to
We're in control of all plans.
as a defensive measure. Just get a few more seconds on that target. I think we could get him. Don't know if we're going to have the time though. One more pass ought to do it. We're almost dead. Oh, there we go. Whew. So we're using the terrain here since we're very low on health. And let's do some climbing. We try to get back some health. Build our boost back up. If we start getting near the squall line, I will probably crash this aircraft intentionally.
The enemy is about to win. Push harder. Be advised, a line of thunderstorms is approaching. We'll soon be unable to provide support. Do you copy? Over.
Let's see if we can. We're in a good position here to fire on this. This guy's gonna get us.
There's a heavy storm here. Unable to proceed. Return into base.
Can't believe we
Do you
survived
copy?
that. And he took quite a beating.
Victory is ours. We're waiting for your return.
Okay. So that is the ME-262 HG-3 German heavy fighter. Some zoom and boom. Rank 1. And a victory. It's very important, a very important role for this aircraft to take out those heavier ground attack aircraft. Use its superior firepower to bring them down and prevent them from securing those sectors, which I think was an important component of the victory in this particular series of sorties. Okay, as you can see, we did over 8,000 damage to aerial targets, and that's putting a lot of damage on those heavy ground attack aircraft. 6 aerial targets destroyed, 2 sectors captured. Over 8,000 in XP. And of course the #1 spot on our team. This aircraft is a tremendous aircraft to fly. Very powerful. And I am not the best zoom and boomer by any means. But you can still see how effective it can be. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you get the opportunity to fly the 262 HG3, then I think you'll really have a lot of fun with it.